What's going on, YouTube land? How y'all doing? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to do a little bit different. I've been promising you this stuff and we're going to start doing this. So for 2026 you will see more RC stuff on here. This is a big part of some of my hobbies that I like to do, and this is another stage that got me into one-to-one cars. So this is going to start off with some vintage stuff. Believe it or not, I still have my original race cars in RC back when I first got started. So there's a couple of them that got traded off here and there, but the very original ones I still have. There's a couple that I did some like chassis tries, some tests, and then just, you know, favored the other cars. So that's something you'll grasp from the stories as we go. But with further ado, let's flip this camera around and get right into it. Be right back. Alrighty, so many of you are going to know that name. That there is Kyosho Company. They're based out of Japan. We ran those cars for a long time until some of the American market cars started to really get developed and come around. So the one we're going to talk about today is my first and my original racing buggy, and that is the 1986 Kyosho Optima. This is the original one. This car was started to get kind of like marketed in the magazines and stuff like that in like 85, late 85, and then came out in 86. This car rapidly changed RC racing, especially with four-wheel drive buggy. You started to see the difference where they were running, at least up here anyhow, they were running the four-wheel cars separate from the two-wheel drive. This is a four-wheel drive buggy, as you can see here. We'll roll it on the back. These cars were very unique. They were chain driven. They were Lexan bodies, which were lighter. You know, prior to this thing, a lot of the cars were all hard plastic. So, I mean, Tamiya was a huge company here in the state of Minnesota, in the upper Midwest. And a lot of those things were all hard body. So when you crashed them, they cracked, they broke. Some of my first, you know, just backyard bashers of the higher quality remote controls versus, you know, the Targets, the cheapies, the Kmart stuff, the Montgomery Ward stuff, Sears Roebuck stuff. That stuff was all garbage. Then you got into a Tamiya, like a Blackfoot, a Fox, a Frog, a Grasshopper. I had the Mario Big Bear. We'll talk about that thing another day. But then this thing here, Lexan. So really, really cool. Everything was aluminum. They really did a hell of a job. So I'm going to set this camera down and we'll kind of go over the car. Alrighty. So back then everything was pin tires. You didn't even glue the tires. They screwed them together. You can kind of see back here. You'll see the little black screws. So the back bead screwed to the front half. So you could change tires, have the same wheels. This is the original body. I was so infatuated as a 13-year-old kid that I wanted it to look like the box art, so we did it like the box art. They gave you all the like Optima stickers, and all these stickers came in the kit. I used that Tamiya, or no, this was Autographics, was a company at the time. This is all their black like pinstriping sticker. Took hours and hours to sit there and cut all that out, but I painted everything with a brush, and you can see that. So you'd paint them on the inside with some jars of brush paint, and they were crude on this side, but they looked pretty decent there. But I used all the fine line pinstriping tape to separate the colors to, you know, not show some of the bleed through and stuff. And you can see where it's been crashed. Like I said, that's the original body. When we started racing them, we cut this scoop out and we were getting air in there because that's where the speed controller was. And then same thing in the front here. We'd drill little holes here to try and get some air in there. You didn't want to take the windows out because a lot of the tracks were really loose, loamy dirt. So you didn't want to get any of that dirt on the speed controller that would sit right there, and that would kill it. But back in the day, they ran dual servos. So the servos are still in this car. Steering servos down here. This would be your throttle servo. They were all plastic gear. They didn't, in the car racing world, nobody was playing with metal servos at the time. The cars weren't horrendously fast. I mean, for the time they were, I mean, we thought we were moving. That's the bottom line. We thought we were moving. But they didn't have turnbuckles. The sway bar was an option piece. So we bought the sway bar kit for this car. For handling. There was one in the back as well. So we put that on there. The motor guard was an option piece. Everything that was gold like this was under the Option House brand, which was kind of like Kyosho's way of Dodge and Mopar, right? Mopar is the performance line for Dodge, Chrysler, Plymouth. Option House was the performance parts for all the Kyosho kits at the time. These are the stock tires that came in the kit, stock gears. This is chain drive. You can see the chain right in there. Chain case here. You had these aluminum frame rails. You can see where the case is a little scuffed up. They then later did come out with a pan, like a guard pan to protect this this chain case here. So this car, we never put that on there. We put that on the second version of our race car, and then this one kind of got retired, and I used it as just a play vehicle to stay in practice. So late '86 they came out with the Turbo Optima. The Turbo Optima had a wider body because the battery goes in right here, and this car was set up for a 7.2 in the width of this body, and the racers were all running 8.4s, and so the battery was longer. So the bodies on these things were kind of like all bowed out like that. And Kyosho was very right on top of their game with what the trends were in the racing. Most part, the main competition for this was the Tamiya Hotshot 2, the Big Wig. Those were the cars to try and challenge this thing. And for the most part, they were quick, but they weren't as reliable as this car here was. This car was really good. So let's look at the shocks. These were some of the very first aluminum oil-filled shocks that were coming out at that time. Like a lot of the competitors, the Tamiya stuff, they were all plastic body with oil-filled. These had these plastic collars with a screw in there that just basically clamped. You didn't have any adjustable pistons in there. Oil was not a thing like it is today where you have all the weights. Spring rates, you had just a couple springs to choose from on these things, and you basically just adjust the ride height and the pressure you wanted with the collar. You didn't have adjustable turnbuckles. I mean, you could adjust these, but you had to take the screw out or pop this off. You didn't want to pop this off. The more you pop this on and off, the more loose it got, and then when you got into a little bang, these things would pop off in a race. So you just always wanted to unscrew it here or unscrew it here, and then you would lengthen it or shorten it to get your camber angle in it here. You really didn't have a lot of adjustment with your kick up or any of that stuff. That was preset per the factory. Really cool. The one thing that you did have adjustability on was right here. You can see the slots. This whole front end, you loosen all these screws, and that there is slides back and forth, and that's how you adjusted your chain tension. The chain goes all the way from the back diff back here all the way forward to the front diff. They did give you different sprockets to put on the diffs. So you could speed up the front or slow the front down, depending on what type of surface or dirt you were running on, which was really cool. These were also gear diffs, so back in the days they were gear diffs. Ball diffs came out probably 87 and under the Option House banner. Just like then they came out with a belt drive system, which we will show that on a later video on the other car. A lot of option parts came from the racing world, just blowing up there. But this is a really cool deal. The reason I'm showing you this is that I've tracked down a few parts and pieces for this car. We're going to strip this car down to nothing over the next few weeks. We're going to repair some of the parts that are fatigued and broken. We're going to get this thing back into running condition and restore this car. I managed to find an original speed controller, which was a wiper arm deal that this servo would run. I found a Futaba switch for it. Those switches would go bad. We're going to put this thing back together as original. I found there was a driver, like a Lexan driver, that would go in here and cover up the speed controller. Your receiver sits right back in here. So I found a few of those things. I have a broken shock collar here, so I try to find these shock parts all the time. So if anybody's out there knows of more of these, let me know. I'd like to have more spares. So I have one of them to put on here. I do have a little bit better set of wheels and tires that I've found. These ones here are kind of worn down. They have a little bit more of a spike. So I've been very blessed to meet a few other people through some of the forums and stuff like that, that has got me some of these parts and pieces to bring this thing back to life. It's going to be a lot of fun to drive this thing. I want to find the original. I had a 2-stick, 2-channel Futaba controller. It wasn't the trigger. The trigger one wasn't out yet, the Magnum. So I want to try and find that controller. I don't have the original controller anymore, but I want to try and find the stick controller and put this thing back on the stick controller. I think it's just going to really take you back in time. It's going to be a lot of fun. I cherish this vintage stuff a lot, and then you're starting to see where they're doing some of the vintage racing, which is really cool. I would really love to participate and build a vintage car that I wouldn't mind trying to race. It's definitely not going to be this guy. Like I said, this means a lot to me to have this car yet from 1986. And I do have the Turbo Optima, and that came out late 86. And that kind of came with some of the racing stuff. So we will get into the Turbo Optima on another date. We have quite a few of these to restore. There was different versions of this car that we made into race cars. And when I say we, me and my father. And this was something that we did together, and it was just a ton of fun. I learned a lot about, geometry of the suspension, shocks, gear ratios, all that stuff. And that stuff all translates into one-to-one. The model cars translates into one-to-one. This was the next phase, and this was just a ton of fun. This kept me busy as a child like you wouldn't believe. I've told people before that I have ADD. It's 100% ADD, and I just would sit and tinker with this stuff. Just have a blast. So you're going to see more of this. There's a lot more other things to discuss as well, but we needed to start somewhere as a baseline first before we start getting into some of the real detailed parts and pieces that we have here. This is going to be a lot of fun. So, oh yeah, one question that I got was somebody asked, due to one of the videos I just did where the new logo thing came out where it said the 12K, and then same thing with my my official channel handle name is the @KRD 12K. What does the 12K stand for? 12K is my racing number. I've used 12 for everything for a long time. It was somewhere in the early 2000s, late 90s when we incorporated the K, because there was other guys with number 12, and that's where the 12K. So the 12K goes on everything, you know, the one-to-one stuff, the RC stuff, everything is 12. Here I can show you. So we did pull some of the sprint cars down. You can see right there, there's the 12K. This is exactly what evolved from racing this in the 80s to racing these in the basically the 2000s. So this here was the other set of sprint cars that I had, and then I retired these cars, this chassis, and then we switched chassis manufacturers and we went to that sprint car there. That's when I decided to kind of do like the Ollie's paint scheme, but instead of the red and yellow, I did blue and yellow. I like my blue. And these are all airbrushed. This is all Createx paint. I did all the carbon fiber, all that stuff's painted, the logos, the numbers, all that stuff's painted, but we got to get these guys cleaned up too. I kind of like, I painted these Mopar logos on these wings and stuff. I kind of like that. These two also got the chrome headers, versus these ones have black headers, but yeah. So you probably see some videos on that as well. These cars here, we got to get these cleaned up, go through these things. We've got a new sprint car to build, but I want to go through these things, kind of overview some of my setup sheets. I tracked all my setup changes. You can change all the different springs on these things, the pistons in these things. There's a lot going on with these cars versus the old cars, but very cool. So we're going to go through them things in the next week here, and we're going to have some fun with this, and we'll probably do some videoing, and then hopefully real soon we'll get into the brand new kit and we can kind of show some of those differences as well. So let's flip this back around. Alrighty, so I hope you enjoyed that. Like I said, I've really been trying to figure out how to kind of start this other segment. Like I said, to me these things are all hobbies. These are all fun. There's all great learning aspects of this stuff. There's still modeling stuff involved with this, the painting. I like to have my stuff look good no matter what. You can't win them all. So if you don't win, at least you're bringing home something that still looks good. It's, you know, you put a lot of time and money into these things, so you might as well have them look good. That's the way I think anyhow. But I'm very, very intrigued to get into this guy right here. It's been a long time since I've built this car. So to take this apart is going to be some deja vu, some flashbacks, some great memories are going to come out of taking this car apart and getting to this. And then you're going to see the other two versions. Like I said, we had a Turbo Optima that we raced. That had more hop-up parts in it, and that's when we then kind of retired this. And then after the Turbo Optima, I ended up getting another Optima, but we had used some other aftermarket parts that kind of were approached to us through some hobby shops to race and try out. We were doing really well in those days. We had a lot of fun. We were, my dad really got into the whole pit guy thing, and basically with that car, you're going to see the transition of what those started from. That's where this is all going to kind of link in here. So that's why I brought those down to start cleaning, and I thought, man, I need to start doing this. And this is the one that started this off in this era of racing, and hopefully some other people might chime in from that 86 era and kind of talk about what was going on in your region for RC racing. Up here, it was predominantly dirt oval. There was a couple where there was really kind of small ovals that just kind of had like a dog leg in it with a couple of little jumps or whatever. The jumps weren't nowhere like what they are today, size and airtime or whatever. These things, I mean, let's be real, these things jump like a pile of bricks. That's just being honest. So everybody was focused on making oval cars out of these things, and we're going to get into some really neat oval concepts where you made buggies into an oval car. There was even some magazines back in the day where they showed all the conversion parts and pieces that were available to convert the Kyoshos, the Tamayas, the associated buggies. The associated buggies had just tons and tons of kits that were available to convert them things over. So this is going to be really, really cool, and it's going to then lead into when Custom Works kind of got started. And Custom Works then really got into the racing scene and what their first car was. I don't have their first kit, but I do have their first sprint car kit. Their first kit was a late model chassis, but I do have the Kyosho version of what their late model chassis was in the day, and we ran that successfully as well. And so that's going to be a lot of fun to show you guys what this car transitioned even from this company. So again, hope you enjoyed this. Leave me a comment. I really, really appreciate it. I'm hoping to see some more RC folks watching this stuff as well. To me, if we can collaborate all of these great hobbies, the RC guys can take some stuff from us model guys as well. I like everything. So I don't consider myself just a big model guy. I don't consider myself just a big RC guy. I like it all. The only thing I don't do here is trains. Someday I want to have a train circulating this whole shop. Maybe not this shop, maybe the future shop. There's plans on that too. More to come. But anyhow, if you like this stuff, please go down there, smash that subscribe, give me a thumbs up, give me a like, leave me a comment. That's the most thing. I like the interaction, and we're going to get into more of this detail stuff. And leave me some messages, like the comment I got about what's the deal with the 12K. There you go. You got a little taste of what the 12K is about. There's going to be a lot more detailed stuff on that as well. And we're going to get into a lot of vintage stuff. I have lots of nice vintage stuff to show you guys and share with you. And hopefully help educate some of the new age RC guys on how the technology evolved over the years to where we are now today with lipos and brushless and all the programmable speed controllers and stuff like that. I myself was one of the first ones in this area with electronic speed controller. The first speed controllers were circuit board wiper arms. So it was really cool to be a part of that. And then when we were racing, we were some of the first series in oval to race what we call the brushless league, and the brushless motors were very plain Jane spec'd, and that was really cool. And we'll go through that. I have those motors. I think I even have some of those speed controllers yet too. They were very basic, but a lot of fun. And there's a lot of great stories to come. So we'll see you on the next one. I gotta go. Peace out, everybody.